Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a very important video. My name is Ace of Plays, Gwent official partner, and of course, professional Queensguard player extraordinaire. This video is going to be one of the most important videos that I have ever made. Today we will rank all the different Queensguards on this beautiful chart provided by Tier Maker. You may think, Ace, there's only one Queensguard. It's a 5 provision bronze. It's 5 provision bronze. What are you talking about? Well, truly spoken like a non-believer. There are many different types of Queensguard, all with their own ups and downs, values and non-values. There's a plethora of different Queensguard, and we will rate them all today in this, which will hopefully become the official Queensguard tier list for Gwent the Witcher card game. Let us hope. We're going to start off very simply with this first one. Now this is the first Queensguard you play. From your hand. You take this Queensguard, you put it down. Now, this Queensguard does get some points for being just the very first. Alright, this beautiful lady is, in the forefront, putting her own life at risk to try and drain the opponent out of removal so that her sisters may live. Her job is very important. She is usually the least likely to succeed at multiplying and, getting a family, which, not all women want, of course, but Queensguards do want that. But because of her very important status as the primary removal magnet and just, the first of many strong, independent warrior women, I'm going to put her at an A tier. So we're starting off pretty high. Now, after this Queensguard inevitably gets killed, we have the second one. Now, she's more focused, as you can see by the image. More focused, more pissed. But she knows that she has to succeed. Because if she doesn't, then who will? Who will? I mean, there are others. There are many others. But she's very important. She goes in the A tier as well, I believe. These are both equally as important for very different reasons. Now, there are other ways to get Queensguards out. You can use Operator. Operator is a fantastic card. And the Queensguard you get from him is a very, very valuable one because often, you get an extra Queensguard and your opponent gets a Queensguard. But it's not an easy engine for non-Queensguard lists to use. So the Operator one is definitely very powerful. Just makes your deck, your whole deck, just more resilient towards removal. Because you have an extra Queensguard, you have an extra res, potentially, if it does get killed. If they all get killed. Of course, lately, we've been getting into devotion versions of Queensguard, which do end up being more powerful, which is why the Operator Queensguard does land in B. In the past, it used to be very equal to the first Queensguard, because often it is the first Queensguard. But, of course, the draw dependency of having to draw Operator and a Queensguard, that's suddenly 2 cards that you have to draw. If you do, though, they're pretty good, which is why it's at a B. But, of course, like I said, devotion lists are probably more powerful, and therefore Operator gets knocked down a little bit. Cerys Crate. This is a goddess tier Queensguard. The Queensguard you get from Cerys is god tier. It can fill both of these slots. It can be the first. It can be the second. It can even be a third. But the fact of the matter is, it comes down at double tempo. You don't just get a 4-strength unit. You get 2. That is 8 points of tempo. It's not the highest amount of tempo, that you can play a Queensguard with. But because you can use Cerys, Cerys is a way to just help guarantee you get a Queensguard. Often you need more Queensguards, more than one. Cerys is a great way to do that. But if you really need to push hard for round 1, that extra tempo can really come in handy. But, of course, if you do make it to round 3 and you still have Cerys in your deck, or hopefully in your hand, that's just double tempo on that final push towards victory. So the Queensguard from Cerys is definitely the god tier, or goddess tier, Queensguard of this list. Moving on. Harald the Cripple. I'm going to put that in S tier. The Queensguard you get from Harald the Cripple is the highest tempo Queensguard. If Harald is evolved in round 3, you will get that ping as well. So that is 6 extra tempo on playing this Queensguard. The reason that Harald goes in S tier as opposed to Goddess tier alongside Cerys or instead of Cerys is that he requires there to be a dead Queensguard, which, it's very easy to get. It's very, very easy. I just noticed that most of these images are outside the screen, but that's fine. That is fine. Harald the Cripple. Like, the requirement of having a Queensguard in the graveyard, easy enough, right? Not a problem. But you don't really want to play... You can't really play him in round 1, because then he's going to damage the Queensguard by 2. And it dies to 2 damage, which, that's not good. It's not good. So it's the flexibility and, of course, the devotion requirement. Devotion decks are stronger than the non-devotion Queensguard decks. So the requirement is not really that big, but it is a requirement nonetheless. And just Harald the Cripple as a means of resurrecting Queensguard. It's the highest tempo play, but a lack of flexibility compared to something like Cerys does put it on the back a little bit. So S tier for the Cripple. Blood Eagle. Or rather, the Queensguard that you tutor out with Blood Eagle. You get 2 extra tempo off of this play, and you get to tutor. Which means that your hand can have other cards. Queensguard trigger cards. More Queensguards. There's so many ways to go with this. But having Blood Eagle in hand, and it having Echo, right? That's 2 tutors for Queensguard, but it can also double as, of course, a tutor for most other cards in the deck. It can tutor Harald. It can tutor Cerys if you get the death blow. So the Queensguard that you get from Blood Eagle is very much in line with these A tiers. But I'm going to put it all the way to the left, so it's the first one. Because it's not quite an S. I mean, this does not compare to resing a Queensguard with Harald the Cripple. But it's the same as these two, but with 2 extra damage. And you can use it twice. So it can actually be both of these two, technically. If they're in different rounds. Which, will they be? I don't know. I really don't. The Queensguard you get from Freya's Blessing. Freya's Blessing truly is a blessing, because Queensguard are fairly fragile, and you can't buff them. You can't boost them, or give them armor, because that just makes them harder to trigger. And then what's the point in the first place? So when you're playing Queensguard, you should always be prepared. Excuse me. You should always be prepared for at least a couple of them going down swinging pretty early on in the match. So Freya's Blessing. Is a B. And why is it a B? Why is it a B? Mainly because it has a little bit less proactivity to it than just playing a Queensguard. You can't open with Freya's Blessing onto a Queensguard. So the Queensguard you get from Freya's Blessing is a less proactive Queensguard. The requirement for this Queensguard to exist is that it has already died. Which is sad. It's very depressing. It's almost enough to make a man lie about depression to get sympathy and donations from people on the internet. Of course, that's not why I did it, so, you know, I'm not speaking from experience. But yes, the Queensguard from Freya's Blessing goes on a B. It's still a very important Queensguard, but it's obviously not as important or as powerful as the ones above it. Cintra Royal Guard. You may be surprised to see this card here, but obviously it's Queen Calanthe's guard. So they are Queensguards. They provide the game with a pretty fun archetype. You know, trying to spam as many of these guys as you can. And it's in a faction where playing extra units or extra copies of a bronze unit is very possible. But of course, it's nowhere near the epic levels of these Queensguards. So it goes in a C tier. Like it's not a bad Queensguard, but it's not a Queensguard. So we're gonna put it in C tier. Like I said, it does offer up a very fun archetype similar to these Queensguard. So he definitely has some merit. He's not a beautiful warrior lady. He's not strong or independent. So C tier for you, my friend. Now, what is this Queensguard, you may ask? This is the first Queensguard that you successfully spawn and summon to the row. This Queensguard is the result of success. She represents success in every sense of the word. This Queensguard means that one of these initial powerful women survived and have started multiplying. This Queensguard is a sign of a brighter future. This Queensguard is a sign of Second Wind being removed from the game soon. It's S tier. It's below the Harald the Cripple Queensguard because that's just such a massive tempo play. 2 engines on the board in round 3. It is good. It is so strong. But once you get this second Queensguard spawned, you're on a roll, my friend. You are on a roll. And here we got a few extra lovely ladies. These are just any subsequent Queensguards, subsequent even, that you're able to spawn and summon from your initial ladies. They could go on S, right? Because, you know, what separates these from the second one? Well, you know, these don't have that much hype to them. Like, at this point, you're just rolling in points. And, you know, it's pretty epic. It is pretty gosh darn epic. But you already knew. At this point, you already know that your Queensguard are going to put in some heavy-duty work. You're already feeling pretty good about yourself. You've already started going to the gym again. You're eating healthier. Like this. These subsequent Queensguards, as amazing as they are, they're just not as important or as massive bringers of hope and change as the other ones. So they're going to go in the B tier. Again, I cannot state this enough. B tier is still very good. B and above are all important. Alright? But what really separates the tiers is the power level and, you know, just the added layer of life becoming better and just everything, you know, coming up Millhouse. The future is looking bright. Queensguard are in the house. Now, the Queensguard that you get from Sigdrifa's Rite. That's a bad Queensguard. You never want to be put in a position where you have to play this Queensguard. Sigdrifa's Rite should not be played on a Queensguard. This should be for Sigvald. It should be for Skjold tempo in a shorter round. If you're forced to play Sigdrifa's Rite onto a Queensguard, then that Queensguard represents defeat. Not guaranteed automatic loss, but it just means that you fell victim to the removal. You got controlled out of the game. You're forced to spend a Sigdrifa's Rite on a Queensguard. And as much work as that Queensguard may be able to put in, it's always just gonna be... It's gonna feel bad. It's gonna feel a bit off, you know? It's like when you have a friend, right, who has been to rehab, right, because they've been on the drugs or the alcohol or both, you know, and they come out and, you know, they seem clean, they seem healthy, but there's something a little bit off. Now, I wouldn't know because I haven't experienced that, so that analogy may be completely wrong. I just feel like there would be some changes made to that person. And just some skepticism that you can't help. No matter how much you love this person, there's going to be some skepticism due to what they've been dealing with in the past. Are they better? Are they clean? Is this Queensguard going to be able to save this match? Now, again, I can't speak for the rehab friend, but as for this Queensguard, it won't be able to. It's going to be in the D tier. It's a shame that to have to put a Queensguard this low, but speaking of putting Queensguards low, the Queensguard you get from Street by Runestone. I'm just going to go ahead and just put that in F. Alright. It's the most unreliable Queensguard. I mean, the pool is really massive, and it's only going to get bigger. So the chance of even getting this Queensguard, I mean, it's close to 0. And usually when you do get this Queensguard, you're not playing a Queensguard deck. And you know, like I said when I was talking about Operator, if you're not playing a Queensguard deck, then Queensguard is not really a good card to use. If you can't trigger it, and it's just a 4-point card. And if you're not playing a Queensguard deck, your opponent may not even bother to waste removal on it, because they know. They know, haha, he created that with a Runestone. He's not playing Ursun Ritual. He doesn't have Hound Snout. They're going to laugh at you. You're going to be the laughingstock of that entire 1v1 match. They're going to laugh at you. You're going to laugh at you while you're crying. So this Queensguard is terrible. You do not want to see this Queensguard. You just don't. I mean, it's going to be lovely to look at, but it's just... You know what I said about the Sigdrifa's Rite Queensguard representing defeat? This one. While not a direct sign of defeat, I mean, usually if you're playing Runestone, and you kept it in your hand, and you're at a point where you can't safely play it, you know, your deck is probably putting in some work already. So the fact that this gives you a Queensguard that you can't use, it's not going to be that big of an issue. It's not going to lose you the game. But the humiliation. Alright? And you just know your opponent, any potential viewers of your YouTube content or Twitch stream, they're all gonna laugh at you. They're all gonna laugh and point and say, you got a shitty Queensguard off of that Runestone. Why are you playing that shitty card? Go play Hidden Cache instead. Go net deck. It's not good. But you know what is good? The fact that this tier list is now complete. This, the official Queensguard tier list of Gwent the Witcher Card game. I don't know if this messes up the recording, but I'm gonna expand this a little bit. And now I'm out here, and you can see the sidebar. There you go. Now you can see it in full. The official Gwent the Witcher Card game Queensguard tier list. Do you agree with this list? If not, I don't care. Because you're not a professional Queensguard player extraordinaire, Gwent official partner, such as me. But thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. It's just a fun little idea that I had over the weekend. And you know what? I'm pretty happy with it. I think it came out pretty nicely. I hope you got a good chuckle. And I do hope you agree with the list. I mean, if you would suggest any changes or additions, I mean, I would love if you have any additions to the list. Are there any Queensguard that I missed? How dare I? But yeah. Thanks again for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, you know, you can like, you can subscribe. There's pseudo-daily Gwent gameplay content here on the channel. It's not exactly daily, but it's fairly close. And I try daily. Just sometimes I fail. But that's life. You know. Not every day can be a Cerys Queensguard. Sometimes, you know, it's a Cintra Royal Guard, or a Sigdrifa's Rite, or God forbid a Stree-bug Runestone. God forbid. I hope to see you again soon. Hopefully, it's going to be just a normal gameplay video tomorrow. I do have a deck in the works. Hopefully I'll get some good clips with it that I can show you. But for now, just enjoy this video, and yeah, I'll see you tomorrow. Hopefully. Have a good one. Bye. Loosen the wrists. Queensguard.